Social, emotional learning, it's the new wave, where culturally responsive meets innovation.
Hey, Resilient ones. My name is Kristen Hopkins, founder of the Dangers of the Mind Education Fund and creator of Black SEL. I'm a social and emotional expert, curriculum developer, and social entrepreneur who believes in the holistic development of Black youth and adults through culturally responsive and affirming resources. Welcome to the Black SEL podcast, formerly known as Dangers of the Mind. Welcome to Black SEL, Blackity Black, Blackity Black, the social and emotional hub for Black people. Listen, welcome to another Black SEL episode. I am so excited for today's episode. And as you all know, we are Black SEL, where we create and open up a space for Black people to share their experiences, their expertise, be vulnerable, all while highlighting key social and emotional skills. And our goal is to make SEL relatable, tangible, where you can feel it, and sustainable in the Black communities. So today's guest is no other than my friend, Cierra Hinton. And listen, before we jump into this much needed conversation today about Black SEL and Black media, I'm just going to give you some facts. You know how we do. I got some good credential friends that y'all need to hear a little bit about them, and then we're gonna talk about, cause she being real modest in this this little bio here. All right, so we're gonna get into some things. But Cierra Brown Hinton is a creative strategist who centers imagination, play, and community in her work. She loves building with teams and individuals as they drive towards outcomes that matter in a way that is inclusive and authentic. We love to be authentic, okay? Cierra is the executive director, publisher at Scalawag magazine, a Southern Black-led and centering digital-first media organization reporting with communities on the intersection, of culture, race, and systems of power and privilege. Woo! Come on. We're going to dissect that in a minute, because you don't hear media programs and companies doing all that, okay? Cierra is also a member of Blue Engine, a collaborative that works with media companies, startup foundations, and others on revenue and audience growth, product development, consumer user experience, and digital strategy. I don't even know if I knew that. So we're going to talk about that, okay? So Cierra, welcome to Black SEL.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be
Blackity
here.
Black. You got
Blackity Black. Black.
Blackity Black. Okay. Thank you so much for being here. I'm so excited for this episode because, to be honest, Black people, we are mass consumers of many things. Yes. And one of them is fashion, and another one is media. Yes. Right? And so I'm just so excited to talk to you today, not just about media in the Black culture, but about how we infuse media with social emotional learning. And then also, talking about you and your journey. So tell us, let's start by you telling us, who is Cierra Hinton and how did you get into media and being, because this is no small thing. You're the executive director and publisher of a media company that literally has a magazine attached to it. Yeah. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so I like to say that I came into this work accidentally. Like so many Black women in particular, there was a transition that happened, and the organization was left sort of in a place of needing someone to step up and lead, and I was the person who did that. And so that's how I came into my role, to see the organization through a turnaround, really. And that decision, not only for me, but for the folks that I was working with at that time, which turned out that the folks who sort of stuck around through the hard stuff, through the muck, it's a group of women, all of us Southern women, most of us Black women. So, for us, we really saw a vision. We had a shared vision for what Scalawag could be and do, and the sort of things that it could help create and manifest in community. And we wanted to see that through. And so that's how we went from being very, very broke to, today having a team of almost 20 people working to create liberatory content.
Wow, a team of 20 people, y'all. Listen, and Cierra, if you don't mind, can you just state your age?
Oh, yeah, I think I'm 32. Yes, that sounds right.
And
Like, what
leading
year is
20
it?
women, like, this is not like an average person could not do this. So let's just state the facts, right? Because like for real, I think in the Black community, we don't give our people flowers when they deserve them. We wait till you 50 years old and say, she's accomplished all of these
The
things.
legacy.
Right. And it's like, no, this is the legacy right now. You know what I mean? I give you my
Yes.
flowers. So I give you your flowers because
Thank you.
32 managing 20 people, that's all these personalities. That's different work like relationships, all of the things. That's a lot. And so first of all, thank you for doing this and doing this great work. But I want to also honor you because it's not easy. I know it's not. And I know personally, we have conversations, right, all the time. And y'all learn this whole executive director world that now I'm in. I've become into this world now. And I'm like, I don't know. But I admire you guys because I'm not there yet of managing that many people. And to see you do it and do it well is hope. It's inspiration. That's that. But I also will say that when you say accidentally, because a lot of times when we go into fields accidentally, we don't have the confidence, right?
Yes.
And so how did you like gear up or gird up this confidence? What were some things that you were doing to like get that in a place to say, I'm actually supposed to be here. I was actually called here.
So I guess an additional layer of this story is I applied to be the executive director and I didn't get the job. So I joined the team in another capacity. And so then to turn around not 2 years later and it's like, okay, now that we're in this mess, we do need someone to step up.
Wow.
And I did it anyway. And I think in hindsight, like, obviously the timing is perfect, right? I think I was really meant to be the person to turn the organization around and create a space for people to do their thing. I think that is a big part of my calling and my purpose. And so now it all makes sense. But, I think for me, the confidence actually wasn't really there. It wasn't like, oh, I know I can do this thing. It was more like, well, somebody needs to do the thing. I do have a plan. It doesn't look like anyone else really has a strong plan right now. So I guess we can move forward in this way. And that's why I say, another part of the reason that I say accidentally. I think where I actually started to build the confidence though is in really starting to understand my own ego. I think that ego really keeps us in a place of fear, and a big part of the reason that I couldn't build confidence and didn't have a grounded confidence was because I was afraid to let folks know about the things I didn't know. I knew a lot of things.
Let's speak about it.
But there were also a lot of things that I didn't know how to do, but I didn't want to be vulnerable and let that be known because I didn't want folks to think less of me or to not trust my leadership, etc.
You just want to jump into the SEL skills right away, right?
Boom.
Ooh.
So yeah, for me, it was definitely like, okay, I don't need to be right. I don't need to have that attachment to being right. I don't need to know everything. And it's even better if I let folks know when I don't know something.
And that's key self-awareness right there, when we know our strengths and our limitations. And a lot of times we want to all execute in our strengths and be like, this is what I had, this is what I'm good at, right? And nobody want to share that this is actually what I'm struggling with, or this is what I'm working on. And when you share that though, it actually shows that you're a very highly self-aware person. And you're moving in a space or you're creating a space of people to be highly self-aware. Because as a leader, I can only imagine when you walk into spaces and you're like, you're actually good at this, so I'm going to let you take the lead at it. I could, because I run this organization, and I could do what you do, but I might not be able to do that piece as well as you. And as a leader, it takes a lot to say that, but then also as people that's on your team to recognize that in you is also, or see it in you, is also a beautiful thing. So I commend you for even like practicing that with intention.
Thank you.
Because it's not always easy. It's hard to say when you walk into spaces that I don't know how to do something.
Yes.
People always be like, I don't know if people think it's easy or hard, but for me, it was hard. It was like a thing for me. Like, I was like, I don't know if I want to tell you, because I don't want you to think less of me, right? But when you do that, there's always this collaboration and this beautiful teamwork that becomes so strong from the thing that you thought you weren't good at.
Yeah, and I think, in hearing you say that, a thing that I had to come to understand and realize is like, I'm also the oldest child, the oldest daughter.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot that comes with that. And so for me, coming to understand that a lot of my self-worth was rooted in being the leader, the one who stepped up, the one who did the thing. And so not wanting to be vulnerable was really rooted in my self-worth and not wanting folks to, like I said, think less of me because how that would impact my own perception.
I think that's so good. And I really want to go into your journey a little bit deeper, because a lot of times when people look at people in the field, like there's an SEL director, it's like, I can never attain that. I can never be in that position. So I want to talk to you about a little bit about how media has changed like your perspective in the work that you do every day, and also in this perspective, like actually seeing media that you don't produce or create or publish, right? So I want to talk about this because I think we need to enlighten our people, and then also just from you being in the midst of the work. What does that look like to you on a day-to-day?
Yeah. So because I came into the work, so Scalawag, we focus on the South. And so my orientation to the work and my entry point was really about being Southern and being from the South. It was not about media, which is very interesting because journalists and media makers, especially at a particular level, are like very serious about being journalists as a whole identity crisis for them, like truly.
Yeah.
And so for me, coming in and really being a part of this industry where folks are very much attached to what they feel is an identity and it's really an affinity has been very interesting, especially in an industry that, in journalism in particular, the tenet of objectivity being sort of at the core of the work is like bogus because like there's objective people don't exist. Like that's just not a thing because we all have bias. And so, I think seeing that and also understanding objectivity's linked to white supremacy and therefore to anti-Blackness and understanding that like, okay, now I work in this industry where like, and most things are predicated on white supremacy, but in particular, this industry where people are very attached to this tenet of objectivity, which is very much rooted in white supremacy.
Yeah.
And we understand Black people, something that you said earlier, us as mass consumers, but also us as influencers of the culture and slash the actual culture. How is the media supposed to really be with and for Black people if it is very much rooted in white supremacy? And the answer is like, it can't be. And so here they are making money off of us and not serving us. And so now a lot of my work is both through Scalawag and through coaching, like how are we dismantling white supremacy within media as a way to, really actually move folks toward reaching and serving and working with Black people and Black communities as a part of our work, which must happen.
Has to happen.
Must happen.
So thank you for that, because, first of all, I have some dope friends, and like, to know that I was talking on an interview a while ago, and it was about how I didn't realize until probably about a year and a half ago that I was an activist. I really didn't see myself as that. I was like pushing and
It's
fighting.
fascinating,
right? Like, seriously. And I was pushing and fighting through, and I knew I was different than like my colleagues, because you gotta understand, I was wearing this business hat, and not this nonprofit hat. And once I switched over, I felt like I found my people. And I actually felt like I was struggling in this space, because it was like all about we want the contracts, we want the curriculum, we want to go in here, and I started seeing it become corrupted almost, and I was like, something's not right here. And I had to figure out, what can I do for my people? But being able to be encountered, and also a community with people that are fighting against white supremacy and dismantling it in their respective fields, is like, I feel like I found my tribe of people, because we're all up against it in different forms and fashions, right? And just with who I was just talking to, we're talking about like, making sure that we're including Black people at the table when we're having conversations. Like, these are so important, and it's so important to understand that in media, because let's just talk about the pandemic real quick. Black people, we done had double pandemics, triple pandemics, whatever you want to call it. And still happening now, right? With our recent event. And so, like, because I had to stop watching the videos. I had to stop it for my own mental health. It was too triggering for me. The police brutality videos, that is. It was too triggering to me. And so, like, what is your stance on, like, how we as Black people are engaging in the media when it comes to the police brutality piece?
Well, I actually just wrote about this.
Tell us where it's at.
I sent out an email. I just sent an email.
Wow.
Because it's Black History Month. It's Black History Month. And I'm writing this email about spectacle, and how I was actually writing about the Greensboro 4 and the sit-in movement, and how obviously before February 1, when they first sat in at the Woolworth counter in Greensboro, there were sit-ins before. There was a sit-in here in Durham. Parlor Ice Cream sat in. But those sit-ins, those actions did not spark a movement. And so it's like, why is that? And the thing that was different is that on the first day, on February 1, when they sat in, when they walked out of Woolworths, when it closed for the day, there was a reporter there. And they shot what is now one of the most famous images from that event, and asked them, are you coming back the next day? And they said yes. And so when they come back the next day, February 2nd and 3rd, the media starts showing up. And so really thinking about how, a spectacle is an event or an occurrence that has a visual impact, and how the media is really, in that way, a steward of spectacle. And so, when we're thinking about police brutality, if the media was not there, we also know that there have been many other Black people killed by police, and there has not been media coverage of those killings, right? So it's the ones that the media is actually picking up on and providing visuals for, whether video or sharing video from bystanders, whatever. That's what creates the spectacle. That's what creates the impact. That's what sparks the actions that occur after that. As a part of that, it's also when people see those images, they're making a judgment about the humanity of the people involved. If we think back to lynchings and the spectacle of lynching, you know, they sent postcards out. That was the media of the time, but of folks after they had been lynched. And, you know, it is very much, in my opinion, it is present day lynching. And so what is the impact on Black people? It's like, okay, well, when people see those images, they're making a decision around, did this person deserve it? You know, is the police officer wrong? And the answer to this is like, of course, this person didn't deserve it. Of course, the police are wrong. Of course, they're, you know, murdering people because this is a person and this is not what we do to people. But, you know, I don't know that many folks in media understand themselves as gatekeepers of humanity.
Wow.
And so, you know, when every day they play a role in deciding whether or not Black people are bestowed humanity, you know, when they don't take that seriously, when they're not careful with that, what ends up happening is continued narratives that reinforce our inhumanity when we are literally human beings.
Like, I just had to write that down, y'all. I need to have us be pushing some quotes out because that's so good. Now, you know, because what this is about is bringing people that are in their own expertise, like that come on, and then I can connect social emotional learning. And one of the things that you said just makes me automatically think of responsible decision making. In the media, it is your social responsibility to make sure whatever you're putting out, you know, and there's a 5-step approach to a responsible decision. And so it's not just a common sense that like what is
I love a framework.
Yes. And so there's a 5-step approach, and the first approach is identifying the problem. Then we have analyzing the situation. So a lot of times we have problems, then we don't analyze it, right? We don't say, what is the pattern of my problem? How many times has this problem occurred? Right? And then we solve the problem. And once we find a solution for the problem, people always be like, okay, I'm done, on to the next thing. But it's actually the reflection, the evaluation, and then it's actually 6 steps. And then the last part is, was this the most ethically responsible decision that I could have made? And so when you are in media,
I love that.
Right. So when you're in media, it's like, was this the most ethical decision that we could have made to put this out? Was this the most, and you know, one of my friends, shout out to Lindsay Granger, she's a reporter, good friend of mine, you'll see her at the wedding.
Love that.
Yes,
the wedding.
And so she's a reporter, but she's also a part of the she works for Daily Blast News, the national coverage, and also does some stuff with Revolt. Just been in the game for a long time. And she, you might have seen her, she went viral because she called out journalists because of the Kobe Bryant situation. How they literally told the world that he was dead before his wife found out. Well, him and his daughter were passed away before his wife found out. And she said, where is the journalist with integrity? Where are the journalists? Like, we have come to a point where you just want to put a story out so quickly. You want to be the first one that you're not even having empathy. You're not perspective taking of actually people's, who this is their family, right? And so these are all SEL skills that people in media have to like either learn, adopt, take in, because this is something you have to practice. And it reflects in your work. Right? And so it's just making me like, wow, to think of that and to understand the importance of making sure that even our media companies are trained in SEL, specifically Black, you know, Black SEL, because we're gonna help our people first, you know, like we got an obligation, you know. When I think of our ancestors, they believed it was their, or it was an act of liberation to go back and say, I just learned how to read and write, so I'm gonna teach you how to read and write, right? And a lot of times nowadays we're like, oh, we know this thing, we're gonna keep moving. We can't do that. This is communal. We are collective people. We are collective people. And so what I want to talk about right now is about the importance in showcasing more Black media in our community. And so like with Scalawag, you know, this is just one, obviously, publication. And there's so many other ones that are like kind of under the radar. And why is it important to showcase Black media? Why is it important to let people know that you all are here?
So,
and even to get the resources. Because that's a whole nother topic right here. We got a whole guru in the building for resources. Okay, she gonna fight for her people, and she gonna get the bag.
And we're going to get the money.
The money, okay?
Money.
And that's a big thing, because I do feel like there are lots of media publications that are struggling, that are Black. Even organizations such as our Black SEL and all these other Black organizations that are in SEL, they're like, oh, well, there's so much money out here, but we don't know how to get it.
Yes.
And that's the whole conversation itself.
The whole conversation.
But like, why do you think it's important?
Yeah. So I think it is particularly important for Black liberatory media.
Mm-hmm.
Because
what's the difference? Tell me.
There is some Black media that, and I get it, right? Like the system is capitalism, the way that you survive,
you got the gossip.
Yeah, it's like what you're being taught is like the way that you survive is through the accumulation of wealth, and it's like, well, that can't be like the end goal. Like the accumulation of wealth is allowing you to, like you just said, come back to the collective with those resources to figure out what we build together. It's not for you to hoard it like the white people do. So, yeah, I think Black liberatory media is media that is done in service of change. Mm-hmm. And that's really the legacy of a lot of Black media. I'm thinking about the legacy Black press.
Wow.
And those newspapers run by Black people all over the country. Mm-hmm. A lot of them were free to community, and really talked about and held space for what was happening with our people. And that's like really important for us to have information from each other and to be able to communicate with each other about what's happening, but also just like non-Black people need to be reading Black media too, because we can't really like trust other folks to accurately talk about our experiences. Like that is the legacy of traditional and big media companies, and we've seen the narratives that they have put out about Black people, and how those narratives fuel our oppression. Yeah. So, you know, being able to, as a part of your media diet, have media that's coming from Black people, and in particular Black people that want better for us.
You just said a part of your media diet.
Yeah.
I have never ever heard of those words together.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yes.
Like, expand on media diet. Like, just.
Yeah. So when we're talking about media diet, we're thinking about the different media that you consume, because all of us are consuming different types of media every day. Yeah. And so if you think about what's on your media plate, like where is your news and information coming from?
Yeah.
If it's coming from largely, like, let's say, you know, most of your plate is the New York Times. Well, like, we know the New York Times, they be out here. Yes. I think a lot of folks also forget that most media companies are like family-owned businesses. Mm-hmm. Like, we're talking about a white person decades ago started this media company and then just passed it down to their children. Yeah. And now they own this media company and have accumulated all this wealth. And so I think when you think about it from that lens, it's like, okay, you know, and a lot of these organizations have won many awards and they've done really groundbreaking work. So, you know, not trying to negate that, but yeah, these are family-owned businesses that got really big. Yeah.
and I think as Black people too, like that are not in the media space, we don't look at media that seriously. Yeah. To like, we're just clicking and turning the channel, or we're scrolling and watching what we watch, and just start just gossiping off of what we hear. But we don't even know if it's a real credible source.
And if you thought about your media diet, then you would think about, what am I eating? What am I consuming? Where is it coming from? How is it fueling my health? Or how is it fueling my degradation?
That's so good. So I feel like I want to like dig deeper into this about us as Black people. How do we hold ourselves accountable, and how can Black people be more involved in just media in general, or like you said, we have a social or a responsibility to ourselves to have a media diet. I believe that's crucial. And I also believe that protects us in many aspects from trauma. Like if there's certain media outlets that you're only going to get gossip. And is it really feeding your soul, right? Then you have other media outlets where you're going to get knowledge and insight, and you're going to learn.
Affirmation.
It looks like you. It feels like you. And we believe in cultural affirmation around here, right? And then even the cultural relevant piece, like it's relevant to my life. It speaks to my soul, right?
Yes.
And so how do you feel Black people can get more involved in media?
That is a excellent question. Being a media maker, being a creator is, anyone can be a media maker. You know, I like breaking it down to a foundational level, like when you have thoughts, ideas, experiences, and you express them through a medium, writing, painting, filmmaking, etc., you are a media maker. I think that what is harder is that there aren't actually a lot of Black media outlets and platforms. And so while we have a lot of individual Black media makers and creators, we don't actually have a lot of places for them to bring their work and have it platformed and have it pushed out to an audience. So that it can be encountered in the world. The platforming of media, having an outlet, is really expensive, and it's hard, and it's hard to build one.
Absolutely.
And it takes a lot to reach audiences.
And it's designed that way.
It's designed for you to like need to have a lot of money to do it. And so, you know, I think for Black people to get involved, it's like, okay, how do we start to build Black media platforms? What are the values and principles that we want our platforms to have? And, you know, how do we ensure their sustainability? You know, because back to what I was saying earlier, like not all Black media is actually for us. So, you know, we don't want to just have any old Black media platforms. Like where are the platforms that are bringing about revolutionary and transformational change?
Revolutionary and transformational change. So important. You know, I was in a critical media class.
I know.
And you know, we talked about this. It's just been like blowing my mind. I know.
It.
It's been blowing my mind. And but one of the questions we talked about like earlier that I've been talking about for a while now is, what does liberation look like to you? And then the other question is really like asking yourself, like, how am I contributing to media, right? And I mean, and this is a day-to-day thing. And what I feel for me is that, and this is something that we're going to talk about, because I believe that more Black people need to look into writing or media. And because I feel like we could write books, we could write curriculums, we could do all these things, but we kind of shy away from like allowing our voice to be heard on platforms where, because I don't think we think about it. I don't think we even think it's like tangible or real. I don't know.
We also like, we have a whole media system that like, you know, the dominant media system, the traditional media system, like literally ignored Black people. So it's like, and when they didn't ignore them, they like went into our communities, were hella extractive, and then walked away with these harmful narratives that made our lives worse. So, you know, I understand when Black people are like,
just triggered.
Talk to the media, put my stuff out there on a platform. No, thank you. No, thank you. I know what happened.
Now they can hunt me down.
Yeah.
Now they can have drones over my house. So seriously.
Yes, the FBI.
Right.
Like, because people are being reported on, are showing up and following people. Like, these are very real realities for Black people. So I get it.
Yeah, and but it boils down to the question of, what does liberation really look like to you? Because liberation is about freedom.
It is.
It's about, and what does freedom look like? And if we cannot if we cannot express ourselves or let our voices be heard in any space, then we're truly not free.
Exactly. And narrative is so core to our ability to get free. Like our stories. We're literally talking about our stories.
Storytelling.
So when we tell our stories, it can literally be a reality check if we think about it like on an individual and interdependent level. Like if I just keep all my stories in my head or keep them to myself, I'm moving through the world with just my narrative and just my story. But when I share it with somebody else, then it helps me understand that like there's a whole different perspective out there that can help me make meaning of the world around me. And so what does it look like to do that on a systems level?
Yeah. And, you know, when speaking of systems, you know, I want to go into politics a bit because I think that Black people, we shy away from politics. We might listen to it and flip around or, you know, but some of us, and then some of us are very, 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 very invested, and which I know you are. And so how can you make a call to action, per se, to Black people to be more invested in politics in their communities and what's going on, even if that's by the people in the South picking up Scalawag, reading online, whatever, to just be invested more into learning and understanding what is really happening.
I will preface this with, I'm not a policy girl. I just, policy, there's so much policy out there. And there are brilliant people who understand policy better than I do. And I thank them so much for sharing their knowledge. But I am a people-powered movement girl. And so I think even if folks aren't taking the time to understand what the policies are, like we should know generally what is happening. But again, there's a lot out there. I think folks could really invest their time and their attention and really feel like they're getting something out of it. It's like, who is building power in your community?
Right.
And how do you join in on that action? And through that, learn more about what's actually going on. But, you know, white people build power all the time. They will show up to the town hall meetings and the city council meetings and the participatory budgeting meetings. And they know everything about how things are getting gerrymandered and how the district lines are changing. And they are constantly fighting to keep things in favor of them. And, you know, they also understandably like have the time to do that because of how white supremacy functions. But like, what does it look like for us to invest more in power building, in organizing, in showing up and knocking doors and showing up and having the conversations? Because we know, and we've seen across the South recently in particular, that if we can mobilize folks, we can make some things shake. We can make some things shake. We might not know all the policies, but we can get the people to the places that they need to be to cast the votes in favor of folks who are hopefully going to make changes for the better for our people in our communities.
That's so good. And it's so encouraging to, like, for people to just know it's not too late to really get invested and get involved. So one of your last pieces on the Scalawag magazine states, trauma doesn't die with us. And how can we ensure that our generation is using SEL to heal our traumas?
This is also an excellent question. That piece is a part of a series initiative that we have at Scalawag called Grief and Other Loves. And it's really about how grief and love are one and the same. When I think about trauma, for a lot of us, it is grief.
Absolutely.
And, you know, really for me, what I've come to understand is like grief is the process of moving toward acceptance. And, you know, it can be really hard to accept a new reality, accept a change, accept that the thing that you expected to be true is no longer true. But when we don't accept, that's when we get stuck in, sadness and anger, and denial, and disillusionment. And that's what, for me, I think what I've experienced is like, that's how trauma builds up in our bodies. That is like sort of what keeps us from being able to let go and make space for something new. And so, I think being able to be aware of where we are in our grief process. What are the things that we are holding on to? That is really impacting our ability to move forward. It's all about self-awareness and telling ourselves the truth. Like telling yourself the truth is like so hard. It can be so hard.
You're talking about accurate self-perceptions, right? And so like a tenet underneath self-awareness is this accurate self-perception, and it not just takes you saying, I'm actually a timely person and I show up on time, and then your homegirls being like, actually, you're always late, right? Late. And so, are you really do you actually or accurately, perceive yourself as something that you're not?
Yes.
And that's hard.
It's hard
to realize, but the people that love you will literally affirm you at the same time as they they give you criticism.
Yes, absolutely. And without that, it's like, it's hard to move forward. And I think that's like another big part of learning for me over the last couple of years, and how all of that is attached to ego, and how ego is literally there to protect you from those hard truths, because they hurt. They hurt. And so also understanding ego as not a bad thing, but as something that's literally there to as a coping mechanism in some ways, as there to protect you from that trauma and from the things that are yet unhealed. So like, how do we get really comfortable with who we are and knowing that is okay, and that like, I'm always late, but that doesn't make me less worthy.
That's good. So as we wrap up, I want to just really think about the Black person, because we talked about I read an article a while back that was talking about poverty taxing the brain and all these things, and a lot of our Black people are living in poverty. That's just the facts, right? We look at statistics and we see that they're, and especially, I don't even know what the numbers are now after COVID. So, thinking about ways to just invest in, or they invest in themselves to read, because I think that, what was the saying? If you want to hide information, put it in the book for Black people. Like, and it's to this day, like I have overcome that, but it was for a long time coming. Like and it was like something weighing on me, like that I wouldn't read. And it started when I was little, I was reading. And then when I got to college, it was like, I'm just going to skim through this. But it took away the importance of actually like understanding material and dissecting and comprehending and all those things. And like, I want you to speak to the everyday Black person that potentially is not a reader. Like they gonna watch this and they gonna watch it all day. But like in media, because I think sometimes we miss out on lots of things because we do not read and we do not take the time to add that in our diet. So just speak to, and just talk about the importance, how it's changed your life.
Let me tell you something about how you ask excellent questions. Let me tell you.
Listen, because it's helping me. I am you and you are me.
I'm going to push us because when we think about the tenets of white dominant and white supremacist culture, it's actually praise of the written word. And I think that for a lot of Black people, indigenous cultures as well, but Black people, the way that we have always passed down information and narrative and storytelling is speaking. And so for me, the push is actually for media makers and creators to think about how the content that we're burying in written text can be turned into auditory content.
Yes. I'm an auditory learner.
Yes. I listen to audiobooks.
All the time.
I listen
every day.
to podcasts.
Yep. I'm multimedia. You need to show it to me.
Yes, I need to see it.
I need to see it.
So it's like, and also, Black people watch the news. Like, my mama, she watches the news all the time.
Okay.
So it's not that, I don't even think it's that we don't want to read. It's that, like, the expectation is that we consume content in this very white way when there are other ways of presenting that content. And so that's a lot of what we think about at Scalawag. It's like, what are the other ways, both that we already know about and that folks have not even imagined yet, of us presenting content so that we can reach more people with this information versus expecting people to come to our website and read this thing.
Yeah.
So, one of the things that we're talking about right now is like, are we going to produce a play? Like,
come on.
Are we, like, what are the, just like there's a myriad of ways to share information. And so reading is fundamental. That's always going to be true. And also, like, is what we're really talking about is the consumption of information, and that information can be shared in more than just books and writing.
Ooh, this is good. So I am so excited about this because I know someone that is listening, the people that are listening are really going to be inspired by this and going to look at media differently in their role and what as a Black person, how they should not just look at media, but play a role in media and how play a role and also viewing media for themselves.
Yes.
That media diet hit me different, okay? Because I'm going to use that language because responsible consumption. And it's so good because it's when we are intentionally practicing social and emotional skills, we have to be responsible in every aspect of what we consume.
Yes.
Because it literally shapes our identity.
Yes.
So, like, when we're identifying our emotions, we like, oh, why are you feeling so depressed? Or why are you feeling this way? What did you read? What did you look at?
Yes.
What did you see?
Who's around you?
Yes. What's influencing you? What did you like? When we talk about legacy over likes, our brand, we don't just talk about the likes we get. We talk about the likes we give.
Yes.
What is making a mental impression on you every time you like them and now you want those shoes or you want that bag or you want, And so as Black people, we have to be conscious of that.
Yes.
And we have to also be conscious of our power because we just be out here just talking. And then that's a media in itself, That's a write-up in itself, Like, use your voice and make it matter.
Yes.
Make it impactful.
Yes.
So, let the people know where they can find you.
Yeah, so definitely check out Scalawag at scalawagmagazine.org.
Yes.
And I'm on Twitter at Iola B. Hinton, so IOLABHINTON. Follow me.
Yes.
I'll be tweeting.
You be tweeting.
I'll be tweeting.
She be tweeting. She be tweeting.
And Scalawag is at Scalawag Mag on all platforms.
Awesome. We are going to make sure we link that down below. And thank you so much you always, every time I'm around you. Wait, let me just also say publicly that I want to thank you because there are lots of people that say things, but they're not about things. And ever since I've met Cierra, she has been about that action, but she's also been about what she says. And you have done something very special to me. And I don't think you know how impactful it is. And I know that Cierra's not the type of person that will be like, oh, I'm going to tell you what I've done. But I'm going to tell you what she's done because she donates literally monthly to my organization. And I see it come in and I'm like, I mean, when I tell you it's a different, because I know that she's donating from the heart. Like, this is a Cierra thing. This is not a Scalawag thing. This is not a someone else's. This is Cierra saying, I am choosing organizations. And I'm probably not your only organization, okay? I am choosing organizations.
It's Black women.
Listen, it's Black women.
It's Black women.
Listen, I am like choosing to invest and pour into a Black woman, and I feel seen.
I love that.
I feel heard. I feel appreciated. And even on the worst months or the worst days, when I see that, like, and I'm gonna get emotional because it's you don't see that a lot from Black women, and we have to continue to support each other.
Yes.
And this is what Black SEL is all about, you know, like, it's perspective taking. It's like Kristen just started this thing and she's passionate about it. She's driven.
It's incredible. Your work is incredible. It is worth investing in. I can't wait for the episode where we talk about fundraising.
Yes, please.
Because
we're gonna have that.
That's the impact that it's supposed to have. Like, in a capitalist system, like, we have to give money. Like, we have to.
We're not gonna succeed.
We're not gonna succeed without it. So,
and we're tired of Black organizations feeling like they're always in survival mode.
Yes.
Why do we have to live like that? That's not my portion.
We don't.
I'm not living like that, you know? And so I appreciate you. And I thank you publicly and in private, you know, always publicly though, because I'm always going to praise a Black woman publicly. Like, that's my thing. But thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for educating us on media. And I'm just looking forward to more to come.
Yes.
And you will see Cierra at our Black SEL Summit in some shape, capacity, or form. She will be there. And shout out to Scalawag for sponsoring. They were one of our sponsors for last year. And so I'm really excited about what's to come this year for 2023. Thank you so much. Again, this is Black SEL. Blackity black. Blackity black. Black. And we're out.